Absolutely. What a wonderful start. Thank you for that video. It's so good to see everybody here for our first session. On behalf of Finlandia Foundation National, welcome to the first event of National Sauna Week 2025. So we start the week this year, just like we have in the past, on the upper bench. And we will be joined by a real cast of sauna characters today to get it started for us. So I'm pleased to introduce you to FFN's Lecturer of the Year 2025, President of the Finlandia Foundation New York Metropolitan Chapter, as well as representing the North American Sauna Society, one of our premier sauna experts, the one and only Eero Kilpi. Eero, welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Thank you. And even before I start, I just have to remember because we were just in Hancock, Michigan, and I forgot to thank Finlandia Foundation National. Thank you so much for making me the Lecturer of the Year. Thank you for the support all these years, and also thank you for supporting us with a grant to make that song. And as said, the song is going to play at the end at the latter part of this webinar. And we truly hope that you like it. And Johanna and Epi are going to be there with us to talk about their sauna practices, their sauna habits, and how that song came to be. So let's start the upper bench event. I am those of you who don't know me, I am originally from Helsinki, Finland. I go to both continents constantly. I'm traveling like in a couple of weeks before or right after going to Portland, Oregon, I will fly to Helsinki. So I go back and forth all the time. I've been in New York for 27 years. We've been doing the Upper Bench podcast. Well, what, guys? How many years? Now, like a little over a year now, right?
Almost two.
Almost 2 years already. And we've done some 50 plus episodes, I believe, somewhere there.
Right around there. Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's been great fun. It's been like working with you is such a pleasure as is working with these women in music. So it is me and Risto. Who are you? What's going on with you?
Well, I'm a sauna hound, and similar to Sam, I kind of arrived late to the game. I'm not Finnish at all, so I didn't grow up with sauna. But once I discovered it, I enjoy doing it. In fact, I got out of the sauna today, sauning at a new sauna build in our town. That's someone that's part of our crew. So
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, Eero, thanks. This is just a fun event. I always look forward to this week. A lot of great lecturers, a lot of good sauna talk, and like Risto, I came to this a little bit late. A few years back, the three of us got together talking online on some social media forums and Facebook and Reddit and YouTube, and we all kind of got together and decided, hey, we needed to start making some good quality sauna content because there's a lot of garbage out there, isn't there, Eero?
That is so true. That is so true. Actually, what I was thinking about the art topic, or what we are supposed to talk about is hot topics in sauna. But I was thinking that we would take that back a little, staying on the topic, of course. But now I'm doing this just so I'm traveling because of be honored to be the Lecturer of the Year. So I'm traveling the country this year. And I always talk about my first sauna experience in the United States, which happened actually. It's funny enough. I'm gonna go to the same place, probably not to the sauna, in Beaverton, Oregon, which was my first experience or touch to the American sauna. But that was 1981, and that was kind of a huge shock for me because wall-to-wall carpets and a heater, actually not a sauna heater, a space heater. Maybe there were two or three, I don't know, maybe four rocks. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But anyway, so it was something totally different than what I was experienced with, what I was expecting. So I traveled a year ago to be a panelist and do a radio show in Bismarck, North Dakota. And my good friends Aaron Barth and Bobby Gray Eagle were there, and we had a great time together. And there are many people who have actually, even also before me, used the metaphor of what the Native Americans have taken for granted for all these years comes from the great mythology. It's the four elements of the nature of the matter. And those are fire, earth, air, and water. So fire, earth, air, and water. And I was thinking that we would, like, one by one, talk about each of these, talk about each of the elements, and sort of like try to give people tools. You know, people, very many of our audience today are in the know. They know the sauna, and they know kind of the best kind of a sauna. And obviously, like Sam, you know, what's the best sauna in your world?
Yeah, it's always the one you have and the one you built.
Exactly. Well, I don't even have a sauna. Risto, what's going on with you? What's that sauna?
Well, the best sauna we ever used, or our favorite sauna, isn't the best sauna ever. It was just a little tiny sauna on the shores of a trout stream in southwestern Wisconsin. And it's just a wonderful setting. The setting is what made that one so good. And then, like Sam said, we built our own that has all kinds of compromises, but that one is also special to us.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And it really, you have to kind of see where you're going to cut those corners. And I don't want to say you're cutting corners, but sometimes you just can't get all the elements in one package together. There might be budgetary constraints or construction constraints or all kinds of things, but hopefully we're giving you guys some information to get you across the finish line, get you into, a passing grade, so that you can build upon those things because, there are, those basic building blocks of even life, they associate with sauna so well. Like Eero said, wind, earth, fire, water, all those things, they come together perfectly with sauna. So, Eero, where are we starting in that element five?
so again, so we will hold on. I'm just going to explain something before. We try to explain the true Finnish sauna bathing experience by those elements. And we try to explain because there's a lot of, I believe strongly, I've been with the North American Sauna Society for more than 20 years, and there are many people in the business who really even don't necessarily understand completely what this Finnish style sauna experience is about. And there's a lot of, as we know, there's this movement now. There's the social sauna. There's the you name them. There's all kinds of bath cultures that are coming back, hammams and whatnot. But it's like what we want to refer, and we don't, at least I don't judge. I call some of these saunas, I call them hot boxes, but I don't judge them. I said that I don't have a sauna in the United States. I have a steam shower in this house where I am, and I love it. I totally, completely, totally love it. Does it compare to a Finnish style sauna experience? It's just one of the sauna experience along the line, but that happens to be the best I know, and that happens to be the one that we know for sure that brings you those health benefits because it's been researched. There are health benefits, different kinds of health benefits in, say, within infrared cabins and so forth. But let's take the first picture and start get us a little deeper into this discussion. So this picture here is our family's former sauna. It's not there anymore, but I had to sell my share because I was living in the US. This is in the Western Finnish archipelago in a little village called Kustavi. And what is kind of remarkable here is that can you see the sauna there, guys?
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, we can see the dock kind of looks like a little dinghy or a little sailboat or something.
That's a laser. But can you see the sauna? That's what I'm asking. Can you see the hot room?
Right, right. You really can't. You can see there's a building there, but I couldn't tell you what's inside it.
The Obviously the hot room is inside there, but that's not important because that's not what we are talking about here. We are talking about the sauna bathing experience. So trust me, there's a sauna, but in a way, I would love you to like visualize your own sauna inside that cottage, if you understand what I'm saying. So
Hmm.
there is a hot room. There's actually a dressing room with the fireplace, and then you can see the cold plunge, which the picture is being taken from. So let's start talking about the sauna experience. Let's start with fire. So what comes to your mind about fire in a sauna?
Oh, Errol, this is right up my neck of the woods. Being such a big fan of, wood burning heat in my sauna. So, first thing I always kind of start out most of my ritual is, hey, check the wood pile and see, do I even have enough wood to, sustain a good, healthy fire or not? And then if not, I got to get chopping.
Yeah, and I think for me, what comes to mind, I agree with Sam. Ours is also wood burning. Um, But you could also have pretty intense sauna with electric. The one I used today was electric. In that first round, I think it was 220 in there. But what comes to mind for me is intensity. There's something about the heat of sauna that is intense. And if it's not intense enough, then it's not a good enough sauna for me. I'm going to be disappointed and probably walk away pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And without heat, really, where are we? You can't create the steam. You're not going to have a pleasurable experience in there without heat. And you need a good amount of it.
So that we do agree, and we do know that if the heat is below 160 Fahrenheit, it's not going to kill the germs. So particularly if it's a public sauna, and if there's a smell, you have a problem. Now, do we consider that like Risto said? So do we consider the electric heater just fine, right?
Oh, absolutely. When installed properly with the right ventilation, the right heat up time, the right rock pack. Again, you can screw up even a wood burning stove, by putting your rocks all haphazardly on top of it. So, as long as you're checking the boxes and doing, what those manufacturers are recommending you do with them, you're usually going to have a good time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think since I've been into sauna for 10 years now, I've seen improvements just in that 10 years time, in the electric world, especially. All the stoves that I had experienced growing up were in gyms or saunas and they had like six rocks in them, or like the one you described, Arrow. But more and more, it's common to have an electric heater that might have 100, 200, even 300 pounds of rocks. And if you couple that with a lot of kilowatts, you're actually starting to approach kind of more of what the smoke sauna could give, but without the smoke, and that can be a pretty good experience.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
so what I'm thinking, considering the North American Sauna Society, so you wanna sell saunas, right? But you really cannot sell this if you don't have, say, some water land next to the water in, let's say, Lake Superior, because it's kind of difficult to replicate this what you see right now. So you have to start taking kind of parts off to make a product, and then start considering like how would that pan out in the whole. So let's talk about next a little bit about Earth. So what is Earth in your mind in this equation?
Yeah. So again, earth can mean a lot of things. Earth can mean even the material that the sauna is made out of itself, or the setting, of where it's being constructed. The in this picture we see this is probably your standard, 2x4 construction, on a foundation. It's not built into the land really or anything like that. It's your traditional, cottage cabin construction. But we've also seen really cool geo-friendly builds where they're built into the side of a hill, like the Lord of the Rings Hobbit houses and things like that that get geothermal things involved. But when I think of Earth, I really do think about the materials in which I'm, constructing that sauna with. be it masonry, stone, be it the wood that I've harvested from, the local area. To me, that's those things are coming from the earth, and I'm really taking as much natural things and incorporating that in the surroundings.
It was go ahead, Risto. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I just think of a couple things, and I think I see probably the answer you're looking for, Arrow, in the chat, so I'll wait on that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think of early saunas were pit saunas, where the walls would be earth. And one of these days I would love to use a sauna like that. But then I also think of the story of Sigurd Olson's sauna up in northern Minnesota. And I think he talks about leaving the ground, earth, like this connection to nature, that aspect of it, which, just to echo back to my favorite sauna, it's like yours here, just set in an ideal setting in nature, a pristine setting.
Exactly. Exactly. Nature, and then somebody mentioned also, by the way, there are so many the chat has so many chats. We try to follow you guys. There's an overwhelming amount of those, but we try to address those little by little. But anyway, so rocks, obviously, rocks is I feel that that's part of the nature as well. So we know that nature is good for you. We know that nature is very good for you. That's soothing. That's great. So apart from the sauna, nature means a lot. And like me on Thursday, standing semi-naked in Stamford, Connecticut, in that coldness, even though it's not, it's that nature is not even close by, but you have a feeling that you are part of the nature, you're part of the earth. And by the way, I forgot to say before that that trip to North Dakota, I just that was it's had been in my face for years, but the oldest type of sauna was exact the same as the original sweat lodge in Lakota. It's Inipi. It's the spitting image. It's the same thing. So it's like we started at the same level. Probably the people were the same. I don't know. Maybe they invented the same thing or they traveled a lot or something. But anyway, so we have the fire part, the heater, which means and the heater is we didn't touch that yet. But heater is the heart of the sauna. So it's the fire, like in the Inipi or the ancient sauna. It's at the smack in the middle of the sauna space. So it's not in the corner. It's in the middle, and it is obviously it gives all the power to the sauna bathing experience. So shall we go forward? Let's talk about air next.
Yeah, and I've seen some questions in the chat here, around probably what we're going to be talking a little bit about this topic on is ventilation and air. Everybody needs to be able to breathe quality O2 when they're sitting in a sauna. And if you don't have good air intake, good exhaust, just a good overall exchange of air in your sauna, it's going to be a little bit stuffy. It's going to be maybe even generate a little bit of a headache, or you're going to just feel a little bit bogged down. So again, Risto, I think, I steal this from Risto all the time. A drafty sauna is a good sauna. Again, I'm right there with him. Now, luckily, we have those, lovely wood burning heaters, which are sucking a lot of oxygen and air from the outside and just forcing that into the room because it's combusting and needing that air for combustion. But with an electric stove, there are some pitfalls there. You can seal off a room and throw an electric stove in there, and it's just not going to operate optimally, or it's not going to operate like the sauna that you were trying to emulate, or the sauna at your friend's house, because there's just no airflow in there. And that I wish there was a magic wand that we could wave here and say, if you put a vent here and a vent here, you're good. But unfortunately, with just like what Eero was saying, stove placement, bench heights, the shape of the room, the slopes in any angles that you may or may not have in that room play a lot into how you should be ventilating that. But my rule of thumb is if you can get a convection circle of air transfer, where air rises, moves, it goes down, it grabs fresh air, goes up, goes down, and you're feeling some movement of air. The perfect test is just like they do with the old air conditioning commercials, is you grab a piece of foil or grab a piece of ribbon and tie it from the ceiling and see, is it wiggling, or is it moving, or is it, or is it just dead still? If it's dead still, you've got a problem.
Yeah, or you can use my wife's lips as the perfect test. We have people have all kinds of fancy CO2 measures and different things to
Yeah.
try and quantify it, but my wife is very sensitive to when there's not great ventilation in a sauna and her lips tingle. So whenever we're in a sauna, I can just look up, I'll just ask her, I'll look over and I'll be like, are your lips tingling? It's almost always yes.
Right. Well,
The
and
my
hey,
quick,
that's
go
awesome.
ahead.
No, no, Arrow. I know. What Arrow have you been? I mean, have you felt that, that lack of air, or that
So I was
bad
I was I was
airflow?
just gonna say, so do you guys, both of you, do you ever get this like after sauna, this like endorphin high kind of a thing?
Hmm.
I get it every time. So I honestly, and I apologize for saying this out loud, but I think that some of us, I'm saying us, some of us Americans are in love with that CO2 high, which I don't like at all. You know that we've all experienced that
Hmm.
lightheaded feeling that comes from the oxygen levels are down, but the carbon dioxide levels are high up, which makes you lightheaded, and I really don't like it. But it seems to be a norm in a lot of places, and like you said, Sam, there's not an easy answer how to deal with that. But before I let you guys speak, so coming back to this sauna, so that this has been demolished. There's a modern sauna in that place. Unfortunately, I would have kept it had I owned the place further, or the part of it. But there seems to be some kind of an interesting norm, because there's a lot of fighting going on in social media. People love to fight about vents, and it's just a never-ending thing how they fight. And for me, the trip to Hancock, Michigan, the Heikinpäivä, was such an eye opener, because I never tried the plate, like the furnace type of plate heaters before, because those were gone when I was born up in Finland way back in the day. But they like their saunas drafty, and they like their space. And when you have a metal heater which is far away enough, it gives you a fantastic load. But why am I explaining this to you is that, so I'm a very lucky person. So I happen to have an apartment in Helsinki which has two penthouse saunas, and then this one, and there's a one common denominator. All of those have actually windows that open, and it's, you can see it here. And I don't know what is the magic trick about that. So I was born into it. For me, it's very easy. It's just like I can sense it. Or if my wife's lips tickle, you just open the window a little and you're good to go. But
Hmm.
that is not happening in this country. But anyway, so
Yeah, I think we're also afraid that we're going to let the heat out. I think that does boil back down to, hey, let these rooms warm up. These sauna rooms are not hot after 30 minutes. Your thermometer on the wall that's directly above the heater might say that it's ready to go. But unless that bench is warm to the touch, those walls are warm to the touch, the rocks are ready to throw off a good steam. More let it warm up plenty,
Yeah,
because as soon as you open that door up, it's okay. You're gonna warm that room right back up.
yeah, that's when I first got into sauna. I always heard the first rule was to close the door. But then the more I learned, I became confused because I would watch videos of Savu saunas and
Hmm.
trying to understand this thing, and they're heating it for 6 hours, and it's just a giant pile of rocks. and then they open the doors to air it out, and they're just like leaving the doors open. It's like breaking all the rules in my head. But like you said, the whole building is hot and the giant pile of rocks is hot. You've stored so much heat, you're fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you welcome that door opening and getting a fresh blast of air, a little bit of cool air. It just freshens it up it just for a second.
I would be, it would be very curious to know, this now there's this whole lot of talk and it's actually happening. There's this community kind of sauna bathing, coming up, and there's the new public places popping up like every month almost. But in the early days, not in this case, but in the early days, basically because it was a smoke sauna, a savu sauna, and it heated, like you said, Sam, like 6 hours. So in order to get to bathe, and I mean bathe for real, I mean to wash yourself, you had to rush into the whole village had to come at the same time to the sauna. So I wonder if they had any CO2 issues back in the day.
They probably just had both doors open and just had a line.
That's so true. So true. So anything else about the airport? It's one of the most important and misjudged things
Yeah,
or
yeah.
elements.
Even among sauna enthusiasts, this is one area where I think, um, almost every sauna could probably use a little bit more. It's pretty, I don't know if I've run across, after using over 100 different saunas in North America, I don't know if I've run across a sauna where I'm like, oh, that was too much ventilation.
Right.
That's
As long as
that's
you're maintaining the temps, there's no such thing as too much ventilation. And I would probably anyone that's thinking about building an outdoor sauna, maybe a standalone structure, think about maybe adding one or two extra that are adjustable because you don't know which way the wind is going to be that particular day. Or maybe in the summer when the sun hits it on that one wall, the ventilation does one thing, and then in the winter time when it's dark, it does something completely different. Give yourself room for flexibility. If you only create one ventilation configuration and think that you're good, but the elements outside that sauna are ever changing, you're going to probably struggle, more times than not.
So let's take that second picture and let's talk about that a little. We're gonna cover the water part with that picture, and after that, we probably should look at the questions that we have, or have we been looking them enough? I don't
Yeah,
think
I
so.
think we've got there's plenty in the chat. So yeah, let's take
So
a look at this photo and we'll get to a couple of these questions. There's some good ones.
yes, yes. So anyway, so I am, like I already pointed out, I'm a very lucky person. So this is actually. I should say that this is ours. This is my wife's smoke sauna. So this is the real deal. That's what from the 1700s. And and I wanted to talk about two things here. I'd like actually only one topic, the element of water, but covering both the water, talking about dry saunas. That's an interesting concept that we should talk about, and then the steam. So it's just like the sauna. Sauna is a difficult word to pronounce. I understand. And löyly is almost impossible, meaning the steam. But anyway, so this baby here is like an old Harley. It takes about four and a half, 5 hours to heat up, and it stays heated maybe 3, 4 hours after that. But it's heavenly. Now let's talk about the steam. Let's talk about the Lola before we talk about the water, the rinsing and whatnot. So how do you feel? How do you feel, guys, about Lola in a say in general? You can't generalize like that, but like in an American sauna. What's the
Yeah.
Lola like?
Well, it really depends on where you're at. And I think the big question we always ask as well, Arrow, is what are we talking about when it comes to a floor drain? Because without that drain, that's going to dictate how much water I can really start throwing around. Because even with my own sauna, without a drain, I'm still throwing a little bit of water around, just not enough to cause any issues. But boy, would I sure like to throw some more.
Yeah, this is this is maybe you know, the steam that you create by splashing that water on the rocks. That's part of that, the real hack, the ancient hack of sauna, where you can just raise the feeling of that temperature. And it's really kind of the soul of the sauna practice for me, at least. Um, and so and this is another part, like I said, ventilation is often we're, you know, kind of lacking on that. I would say we're also lacking on the steam, even in the sauna enthusiast community. When I there's a kind of a difference when I sauna with a fin or non-fin, and it's often a lot more steam when I'm sauning with a fin.
So what's your first choice of
Mm.
steam? You control it or somebody else control it?
Ooh. Yeah, I think everybody definitely likes to control their own destiny, but if I'm feeling challenging, I know a couple of guys that I've, been sauning with that I'd hand the ladle to, but it's going to be a challenge. I'm a big fan of a little bit more than probably my wife. But I've been, kind of chipping away and all of a sudden, hey, it's a little bit by little, you get addicted to it, and pretty soon that warm, enveloping steam, when it hits you just right, that's that sauna hug that we all look for, and we all keep going back for.
The many establishments can't give you a chance to control your own steam. It's kind of yes, it's some I don't know exactly what the limitations are, but there's building code, whatever safety requirements, and that's by the way one reason why we have AFKUS, because the same thing in Germany as is in Finland and in United States everywhere. But so what about the quality? This baby here is like it's got like an old V8 engine. So it's actually a Finnish-American cooperation for maybe I don't know 70 years back. So it's the you can't see it and it's deliberate and I'm not showing again. I didn't show the picture inside in that one and in the previous one and I'm showing a picture of this one. But so this is the heater is made out of a 55-gallon barrel, oil barrel. It's self-made, and if you throw water, it's placed like an organ. It comes from there like strongly from deep down. It comes up. Have you ever experienced in the United States these snap, crackle, pop heaters? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Arrow, are you talking about where the elements are so close, to the top where people are throwing water that all of a sudden they're hearing snaps and crackles and pops because they're pouring water onto red hot metal.
With that, what about you, Risto? Have you seen, do you see a difference between the different types of lolu?
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit. It's something now that you've mentioned it, I'm going to start paying closer attention to. You know, I definitely want a lot of rocks around those elements. I don't want to be
Mhm.
throwing water directly on elements.
No, no, and you can always even smell it when you have maybe overthrown a little bit of water, or maybe you're using a stove that has elements that are really close to the surface. You'll almost smell that metallic, portion of it, and by distancing the water from that element, you're going to create a longer lasting heater and not put so much wear and tear on those elements. But we want that steam to be generated from the rocks, not from a giant electrode. That's not the goal of a sauna heater. The sauna heater is there to warm up the rocks to create steam, not to be having water poured directly on them.
Yeah, and one of the, you know, we've been talking about Steam. One of our viewers, Michael Calcagno, asked about the aromas that you might put in the Steam, and someone else mentioned was answering it that you can make a hydrosol, which is just like if you were to put leaves in some water and then splash that on. So the steam can not just be increasing the heat, but it can also add a beautiful aroma in the sauna.
100%. I'm always a fan of putting a few drops of either a eucalyptus or, maybe, a pine or just some kind of other element that's maybe going to tie me to earth, or maybe it's going to tie me to the air, or maybe it's going to tie me to one of those four elements that we've been talking to even a little bit further, because your nose is also a part of all those other senses. And if you've got something that's pleasant smelling, you're going to remember it. It's going to be a fun experience. But if it's something that's not very pleasant, you're in a moldy, mildewy, carpeted sauna that smells like a gym sock, you're going to remember that smell too, and it's not going to have as pleasant connotations.
So again, we are talking only about the Finnish sauna experience. We are not downplaying any other time of heat therapy. They're all good. So let's finally the last topic before we are running out of time here. But let's talk about, there are no, as far as I can tell, I never bumped into a dry sauna in Finland. So let's talk about what is it, guys. Tell me, what is the what's a dry sauna?
Well, yeah, like I mean, historically, I think the name was used, it's a confusing term, but historically, I think the name was used to differentiate between a steam room or a hammam. But also these days, people sometimes use it to mean like a sauna where you can't make steam, which, like we kind of been talking about, that's a little bit of an oxymoron.
Mhm. Yeah, and one of the questions I saw earlier in the chat, why do these businesses, why do these, YMCA's, gyms, and other public saunas, why do they have signs that say, don't pour water on the rocks, when we're talking about putting water on the rocks for the last half an hour here? Really, there's a couple of reasons why they're, again, they either don't know, or they are just trying to mitigate some kind of liability or safety issue. A lot of times you'll see, especially at public gyms, the proximity of the sauna to a chlorinated body of water is usually pretty close. So if the pool and the hot tub are right next to the sauna, and you got a bunch of rowdy kids scooping water up with their water bottles and throwing it on the stones, if it's chlorinated water, you're going to have a bad time. So again, it takes one uninformed person to really kind of ruin it for the rest of us. But again, you'll know when you're sitting up there with the old guys that are throwing a little bit of water and eucalyptus on the rocks, when and where you can't do it.
Great. So before we go to the music part, do we have questions here that we should cover? There are many, many comments here. There are like
Mhm.
150 comments.
Oh yeah, no, and again, everybody tonight so far, thank you. The interaction in the chat has been wonderful. A lot of cool questions. Again, I know we're just going to scratch the surface here of what sauna is to you guys, but again, if you've got additional questions, or if you'd like to see or hear anything, please put it in the chat or ask a question. Otherwise, you can always get a hold of us or any of the presenters here, with all the links to Finlandia Foundation National, the Upper Bench. And then again, we're going to be playing a music video here in just a minute, after we get through a couple more of these questions.
Yeah, and you can, like Sam mentioned, the upper bench, you can find us at our YouTube channel, and we do some live streams. So it's another great way to interact with us, and we can answer some of these questions if we don't get to all of them.
And again, yeah, best way to add that scent to a sauna is, again, dilution. Do not be putting any oils or anything that is petroleum based directly on the stones or onto your heater. You're going to have a fire. So again, a couple of drops of oil inside your water bottle to dilute that, it goes a long way, especially if you're using quality stuff. Again, go the extra mile, go to the organic food section in your grocery store, or go to a reputable online retailer that you trust. Just make sure that you are using things that are 100%, not a mixture of crazy things. If it's got more than two or three different ingredients on the bottle, don't be putting it onto your sauna heater. Okay, make sure you're using really good, high quality, eucalyptus oil, essential oils that are, from reputable places.
Let's answer one question before we go to the music part. My sauna has no drain. What's the best way to clean it?
Mm. So again, I don't have a drain either. And the best thing I can do is get it really, really hot and then get it really, really dry. So, usually at the end of my sauna session, I'll throw an extra log in the heater, get her up to about 200, 210 degrees Fahrenheit, and then let it air out. Let it come down naturally. I've usually burned up, dried up any extra moisture that may or may not have been in there. And it's always a good practice to, crack your door for a while, let those things air out if you're not trying to keep heat in it. Because, if you are keeping stagnant air in there, you've closed the vents, or you didn't have good ventilation to begin with, then you will start running into those mold and mildew issues.
Yeah, and that's where like good ventilation and a nice hot sauna, like Eero kind of mentioned and Sam mentioned, it does kind of clean itself. And then a few times a year, I've heard like for traditionally for sauna, there's like a pine soap cleaner and like a bristle brush, and you can scrub things off and do any extra cleaning if you need to.
Yeah, but
All
again,
right.
my next build will have a drain because I'll just be able to have a hose right in there. I'll be on the tupper bench taking a shower in the sauna. Let it go.
So let's stop here for this part, and let's ask Epi and Johanna to come over and show your faces when you are ready. Here is Epi, and Johanna is still coming in. So Epi, tell about your own sauna experiences. So do you have a sauna? Do you use a sauna in New York, or where do you sauna?
Well, I'm from Finland originally, so I have grown up with sauna, of course, and going to the summer cottage every summer for weeks and for months even. We went to sauna every night, and I still have a summer place in Finland where I go to sauna every night. But in New York City, I don't have a sauna, and I rarely go to sauna because, as we've been hearing, you can't do the löyly, you can't throw water on the on the rocks, so it doesn't kind of feel like a real sauna. But I travel a lot in the U.S., and sometimes I get to go to really nice saunas. Like now I'm in Florida. There's a really nice sauna here in the community where I'm staying. So, but yes, I have totally grown up with sauna. Sauna is kind of a very natural part of my life. I wouldn't call myself a sauna enthusiast. It's just a very natural part of my life.
And you're a recording artist. You've made many records. You tour constantly, and many people know you, particularly in the Finnish American community.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So, Johanna, what about you?
Well, hello there. Thank you so much for having me. I hope I'm off mute now. I
You are
was
doing
being a little
fine.
frozen. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes, we also had a sauna growing up in our summer cottage in Finland, which truly became kind of like my haven, my little piece of heaven on earth. It was also kind of the anchor for me, an emotional anchor, if you'd say, because I traveled around a lot as a kid. I lived in a lot of different places as a kid. So the summer cottage in Finland was the only thing in my life that kind of stayed and was part of my life growing up. So it's become just the significance and the symbolism of a sauna has become very dear to me. I don't go very often, probably for the same reasons as Epi just mentioned, but when I do go, it's a not a luxury necessarily, but a very special right.
And you are a composer. You've composed several musicals, right? Tell a little about those.
Yes, yes. So I'm a composer and a singer-songwriter. I compose for media, film, and musical theater. But what you may know me for is having composed Kalevala the musical, which was my debut musical. And since then, I've composed two more musicals as well. And it's
And
very interesting that you were mentioning the perspective of nature and the four elements, because I don't know if you knew this, Eero, but that was what I based Kalevala the musical on. So I was telling the Kalevala stories through the perspective of nature and these four elements.
beautiful. Yeah, of course, I remember that. And I didn't invent those, and neither did you, but it's such a fantastic way to put things in perspective. So these are fantastic musicians, these two ladies. And let's just very briefly before we watch the video. So I think it's like I've been a wannabe guitar player all my life, basically more than 50 years, and then we took a well, we don't have time to go into details how we came to know each other, but I took a cab with Eeppi one day from downtown to she was going home, I was going to Grand Central Terminal. And she started talking to me that we should play sometime together. And I was like, who is in this cab? You know, I said, like, who are you talking to? And it's like, I can't, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. But then I started thinking about it, and we did one gig together, and we've been like a group for quite some time. And my part was kind of easy in this project because I wrote the first chord progression. And then I did some like the lyrics like a first version, and then you guys were like, great, good job, Eero. We take it from here, and, and that's what happened. But anyway, so you guys, do you have something to add before we go to
Well, I want to say that this was totally masterminded by Eero. I think, Johanna, you agree. You had like the lyric ideas and the musical ideas. So we just took it further. So it was definitely masterminded by Eero Kilpi, the
Yes.
song that you're gonna hear.
But
It's Eero's brainchild that we were happy
Yes.
to collaborate on.
Yes.
it was so well done by you. So let's watch the video
Oh
now.
my God.
What is this thing most don't know? What is this thing people don't understand? What is this thing that even pros get wrong? An ancient sensation still going strong. We talk about it, how it's good for your health. We hear about it, it's wisdom and wealth. The way you glow, the way you find your flow. A silent conversation, a Finnish celebration, a sweaty jubilation. Sauna, the power of heat and cold. Sauna, discover the tales of old. Sauna, the water will make us bold. When we splash on the rocks, feel those endorphin shots. On the bench, title stripped. Kings and beggars, all are flipped. The best deals, the biggest secrets shared. Global admissions, feeling ambitious when vitas are swinging. Sauna, the power of heat and cold. Sauna, discover the tales of old. Sauna, the water will make us bold. When we splash on the rocks, feel those endorphin shots. We're on a mission to make you do it. We're on a mission to make you do it. We're on a mission to make you say it right. Say it right. Sauna, not sauna. Go on, step onto the planks and join the ranks. Naked, not afraid.